Right. I think we can start off. So, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, depending on the which part of the country you're joining in. And a warm welcome to each one of you. Thank you so much for taking your time to join this session. And before I proceed, I would like to introduce our speaker for today, Ms. Ras Gohil. Ras is a highly accomplished veteran in the banking industry, boasting an impressive 36-year career marked by diverse leadership roles spanning commercial banking, strategy, credit, and risk management. Also, in financial crime and compliance. Many qualifications include certifications from the Lumina training programs, emphasizing behavioral interaction and leadership skills. And yes, I think without any further ado, I would like to hand over the session to Ras.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Somia, for that introduction. I am just a really simple person. I just happen to love what I've always done. So yeah, I'm Raz. Nice to meet you all, meet you. I think Somia has already kind of mentioned, please do just type in the chat so that we know it works more than everything, because when you're asking me a question, you're going to be asking me through the chat. So just make sure that your chat is working. So just a quick hi would be great. So anyway, we're here, as you know, part of a series of programs, and we are on this particular one, we're looking at effective interview techniques. And this is so important because I think we underestimate the power of interviewing, but we also underestimate what interviewing really means. We all get nervous. We all go in thinking, I'm being interviewed. But I'm going to ask you all a question in a minute, about what does that mean? So let's just start it. So webinar agenda, what we're going to do is talk about, well, we've done some of the introductions. If there's any of you that want to introduce yourselves in the chat, please do. If there's anything you want to say or tell me about yourselves, please do. More than happy for you to do that. We're going to talk about what really is an interview, because it's a word that just is so broadly used. I've got an interview, I'm going for an interview, I'm going to be interviewing someone, but we don't really understand what it means by an interview, and we'll go through that. I will show you different techniques, not show you, I'll tell you about them, but also, as you can see me, I'll use some of my body language for you to understand the importance of some of the techniques and how it impacts on you when you are being interviewed, but at the same time, how it impacts on them when you are talking, right? So because it's a two-way process. An interview is a two-way process, right? It's not you're being interviewed, that's it. That's not how interviews work. And I think this is where people get a little bit confused or get really nervous about themselves. And we'll go through that. And then we'll just do a final wrap up. Okay, so first things first. Tell me, thank you everybody that's putting the hi in the chat. I really appreciate it. So in the chat, because I don't think you can speak, what do we really mean by interviews? What do you think we mean by interviews? So tell me in the chat. What does interview mean to you? Don't be shy. Checking the capability of a person for a required role. Yep, absolutely. Shweta, that's a really good point. It's checking the capability of a person for the required role. What else is it?
Sorry to interrupt, Raj. If they want to talk, they can raise their hand. I'll allow them to talk.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Somia. So anybody that, if you don't want to type in the chat and you want to talk, just raise your hand and Somia will put you on. Judging the fit of a person within the team. Yep, Michael, it is. What else is it? By the way, do raise your hand if you want to talk. Feel free to come on audio. Just tell Somia. What about the rest of you? What else do you think it is? So both Shweta and Michael, you have put in checking the capability of the person for the required role and judging the fit of a person within the team. So what you have both put, which is not wrong, it's correct. The person that's been interviewed, are they right for the role and are they capable, right? That's how you've all said. And I don't know what the rest of you, remember, please, and I should have said this at the beginning, don't feel shy to write something. There are no wrong answers here, right? This is all we're learning together. So please don't feel that, oh, I'm going to write something and it's going to sound stupid. Nothing is going to sound stupid, right? We're all learning here. So please do feel free to write anything. So right, so both of you said that, which is great. The one thing that we forget is when we are being interviewed. So let's say I'm the one that's been interviewed. So you're going to be interviewing me for my capability, if I'm fit for the role. What people forget is the person that's been interviewed, do they want the role? Because they might like what it sounds like on paper. They might like and read up all the, apply here. These are the requirements. This is the job description. But what we're also doing is, what we should be doing is, as the interviewee, we're also kind of interviewing the interviewer. We're asking the questions because at the same time, when you are being interviewed, they may be asking you questions and you might sit back and think, I'm not sure I want this job. Or do I really want this job? So it's a two-way process. Israel, an issue is a formal conversation with two or more people, typically with one person and the others. It's commonly used in various such as. Yep, right. I think you've got a textbook response there, which is, yeah, absolutely. This is what it is. But the one thing, as I've said, and thank you for that, Israel, it's a two-way process. And when I mean a two-way process, it's not, it's a finding out, what the interviewer wants to know about the individual, but it's also for the individual to find out about the job, the company. You'll have done your research, absolutely. But research in paper format, in data is great until you're there, until you actually can ask all the questions. And remember, interviewers, you may not realize, can be just as nervous as the interviewee. And don't think that they sit there all kind of haughty-taughty and thinking, yeah, I'm the interviewer. They can't say anything to me, because you are there to ask the questions. Remember, it's not just whether you as the interviewee is the right person for the job or the right fit. Are you thinking, are you the right fit? Do you want to work with these people? Right. And there have been occasions where I've been asked to interview for a role because, when they give you the tap on the shoulder and say, right, we want to, and it's not something I want to do. So you go in there in an interview and you think, well, and you ask all these difficult questions of the interviewer. The interviewer is going to ask you the questions in the interviewee, but the important thing is you have to ask the questions back as well. And we'll talk about that later. So let me just right. So it's the prospective employer and the prospective employee, and it's the discussion. And as Israel has put in there, right, it's a two-way process. It's asking the question. It's the context. It's more, she's put journalistic interviews. This is kind of, like I said, this is not generic. We need to make this more generic. So it's the discussion between the two people. And sometimes it's not just two people. You may have a panel, right? So you might be interviewed for a role and you have a panel. Now, panel interviews are normally when it's a more senior role, but you'd be surprised that even at graduate level and at junior level, you have a panel interview, because you'll be sitting there and then you'll have the person that's going to ask you the main questions, and then you'll have someone that's making the notes, but will also be asking the questions, and someone else. And what will be is that panel will be interlinked for the job that you might be doing. So there'll be different departments and there'll be people from different departments interviewing you as well. So this is about the discussion, right? So don't get nervous and don't think, right, I'm the one that's just been interviewed. You are also interviewing them back. That discussion piece here is about, do I really want the job? So do you really want the job? You might have read and thought, great, exactly what I want to do. And then you go for the interview and you think, oh, I'm not sure the way the person is asking me the question. I'm not sure I like it. What is it? What's expected of me? And sometimes you might want to walk away and thinking, this job is not right for me. It's not what I thought it was, right? You don't remember. The one thing is, we all go in with this, we've got to impress them. Yes, you do. You have to impress them because you want them to give you some feedback, positive and some learning experiences. But you should be able to think, it's not the job for me. So remember, effective interview techniques, it works both ways, not just for the interviewer. So moving on. For the prospective, and what's happened there? Right, prospective employer. What they will do is they'll ask you, what preparation have you done? Okay. Why did you choose the particular company? What's the last thing that they come on with if you didn't see it already? So they're always going to ask you, before they even start asking you any questions about the role, the first thing they'll do is, what preparation have you done? And what's the key thing that we always say? What's the one thing that we always say? What preparation have you done? So you've gone for an interview. What do you do? What do you say? I'm asking you, what preparation have you done for this interview? What's a classic answer everybody gives? Please do come on audio if you want to come on audio, but otherwise I'm happy to read it on the chat. So what's a classic response to that? What preparation have you done? What do you normally say? Spoke to others that have been in this role. Good, Israel. We can hear. So salary expectations. Okay, Michael, I would talk about salary expectations in a while. We can hear, Israel. Sorry, I don't understand what you're trying to say. Sorry if you think I'm going, because I've got two screens. I've got my presentation and then I can see all your chat on the screen. I don't know what you mean by we can hear, Israel. Right, so Maximo, you said, spoke to others that have been in the role. Good, right? You spoke to others that have been in the role. Salary expectations. Michael, whilst that is one of the key things, I would always put that at the bottom of your list, right? Don't start with salary expectations, because what people then tend to think is you're only interested in the money. Then you're not going to stay and have a career if you find a more lucrative role, right? So your salary expectations, I always say to people when I've managed teams and managed people, is if you enjoy the job, you will be successful. If you are enjoying the job and you're successful, the salary will speak for itself. So don't go in with the salary at the top, go in the salary at the bottom. Okay. That's one of the things, thinking, okay, well, what am I getting paid? Yes. Don't say, oh, I'm not coming this because it's a promotion. I want some more money. Don't just say, yeah, I'm doing it for the money. Obviously, I hope you wouldn't say that. You can say, yep, the salary is good. But what the key thing is that the salary reflect the job that you're doing. So always don't start with the salary, but it should be there. But what people tend to do is they'll say, yep, like I've said here, why did you choose the particular company? Everybody does the research, like you've said, Maximo, they'll ask other people about the role. Good point. Most people go online, Google the company, right? And they'll say, right, what's the company? What's it about? What have they done? What's the career prospects? And they look at all the things on the Google that comes out about me, all the things that come up on the toolbar about the particular company. But I can guarantee you, and please correct me if I'm wrong, please correct me, that none of you will find out, well, you may find out who the interviewer is, but do you actually Google the interviewer? Does anybody Google the interviewer and find out a bit about the person that's interviewing you? Because it's not always just HR. HR are there, but the person that's going to be interviewing you is the person that wants you in that role. So you need to know a bit about the person. So when we say, what preparation have you done? You've done the prep on the role. Great. You've done the prep on the company. Great. But have you done the prep on the individual that's interviewing you? Yes, most of the time you can find out a lot about the person based on posts on. So yes, Maximo, you can. But remember the different social medias, right? Don't get taken in by some of the social medias that not business, like, so you probably, I don't know, Instagram, Facebook, stuff like that. Yep, absolutely, Maximo, it should be, right? LinkedIn, and then look on Google as well. LinkedIn is good because it goes into all our history, but you'd be surprised what you find on Google. Just put the name in that you may not find on LinkedIn. Because remember, LinkedIn, we manipulate what we write in there. Google can find things out about a person that's not necessarily on there that they've wanted on there. So find out about the person. That will give you a good idea of how the person is, what they're like, and then how to prepare. Because if they're really strict, regimental, and that's what you find out, you've got to have that a little bit of a softer approach, but be on guard, because they're going to be bang, 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 bang with the questions. Or you might have a bit of a softer person that's going to talk to you and actually make you feel comfortable. Then you know you're going to be more relaxed. You're going to have a better interview. So absolutely find out about the individual and the individuals if you've got more than one person. But I always say, look at, when you look at the online, when you look at the company, look at the hierarchy, look at their organizational structure. Where is the person that's interviewing you? Where do they, if they're on that organizational structure, where's the department? And find out what the related departments are. Find out a bit about them too. Your preparation should not just be should not be kind of blindsided by just this one track. Think about all the other connected departments that may connect to the job role that you're looking at. Because by interviewing and when you're talking about thinking, oh yeah, I also read about this department and I understand the link, that's going to be impressive because they only expect you to know only about the role you're going for. If you're looking at different things, they're going to look at that and think, all right, so they've found out a little bit more about the connections to the department that you're particularly going for. Okay, so that's important. And finally, the one thing is why you? Why do they think you are going to be the right fit? As to, I think earlier on, Michael, was it Michael? Maybe not, wasn't Michael. It was Shweta, probably Shweta and Michael, both of you. It's the person, the capability. So why you? So it's not just why you from the employer's perspective, it's why you from your perspective as well. Okay. So any questions before I move on to the next slide? And I'll move on, but feel free to ask questions. So now the employee, right? Now this is exactly the same. What preparation have you done? They want to know as the employer, what preparation have you done, but what have you done? Now, the one thing I'm going to ask you, and hopefully you will be able to kind of come back with that. Do you make notes? Oh, I've got a new message. Let's have a look. Can you tell them how relevant your skill to them? Can you tell them how relevant your skill to them or the role? Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. You can tell them what your skill set and how your skill set matches, right? Their role. That's what you're there for. So as an employee, what preparation have you done? That's what comes in that. Now, a lot of you will make notes. I'm sure you do. I hope you do. That you make notes, right? When you're looking at the website, you're Googling, you're looking at LinkedIn, whatever, you're making notes. Now, there is this consensus that people say you mustn't take your notes in. I am going to say here, I disagree with that. I believe I've done a lot of interviews in my time as an interview, both being interviewed and interviewed, because I had a spate in HR in one of the roles at HSBC. The one thing I want to see is they've made notes that actually I can see. I don't expect you to read the notes in front of me, but I can see that, they've made loads of notes. That shows me that you've done a proper prep. So you've actually found out things, and I think that looks good. That looks impressive. And I say to people when you go for an interview, take your notes with you. Take an A4 pad that you can write. Don't go in and take a copy of your CV as well. Take a few copies, because when you are going there, so your prep as an employee should be, you've already sent your CV. We know that, but take a couple of hard copies, because they might say, oh, I didn't receive it. And you can say, oh, I've got a spare one here. Right. And they've then got your CV to hand and you can hand it. So I always say to people, take 3 or 4 copies. You may only be interviewed by one, doesn't matter. But if you have a panel, at least you've got more copies, and say, oh, here, I've got one already. I've brought some copies. And take your CV and have a CV for you, because nerves, guaranteed, nerves will kick in and you'll forget everything that's on your CV. Not everything, but most things. You think, oh, I should have said this and I should have said that. So have your CV to hand and say, like I would say, right, got my CV. If there's anything that you want to, you impress upon, use your CV. Just say, look, interviewers know that you get nervous. And I say, take your CV with you because that's your prompt, right? And the other thing I say in your prep is make sure that you have got examples of certain things that are going to say to you in an interview, can you give me an example of when you did this? Can you give me an idea of when you did this? And we forget. In an interview, nerves make us forget. So I say to people, either on your CV or on a blank piece of A4, just write bullet points or one word that's going to jog your memory, right? So something that's going to make you jog that story or that example that you want to give. Write it on a piece of paper and take it in with you. Always say to the interviewer, say, I've got I've got some notes. Is it okay if I refer to them? A good interviewer won't mind. They don't expect you to memorize everything. That's not what an interview's about. It's not about memory, not about memorizing things. It's about how you are fit for the role, as was already said earlier on by Shweta and by Michael, right? It's about how, I would say as an interviewer, I want you to relax and tell me your story. If you're relaxed, you'll tell me your story and I'll hear more about you. If you're nervous, your story becomes staccato. It's not right, rather than the smooth storytelling, it becomes very jolty. And you want that. So take your notes with you, right? And have those one word reminders that jog. Oh, yes, I can give that example. Because one of the classic might be, how have you dealt with that challenge, a personality clash, or how have you dealt with that challenge that was a time critical? And you might think, oh my God, and you can't think of it straight away. But your preparation that you will have done, you will have made the notes. And so from those notes, either highlight a few bullet points in a different highlight pen, or write one word or two, or two or three words that jogs your memory, right? Don't think you have to memorize. Please don't think you do. I see this so often. And it becomes so nervous that the person, the interviewee, gets so nervous they completely mess up the interview. And the sad thing is that person might have been the right person for the job. It's just they've got so nervous. So your prep is absolutely key, right? They will have done their prep as an employer about you. They know what they're going to ask you, right? You have to do the same. The key question is, why have you chosen that particular company? Don't come out with a generic cliche. Oh, it's a company I've always wanted to work for that. They're not going to buy that. Find particular reasons why you want to work for that company. It may be that you've got an affinity or a synergy with it. Ethically, you are interested in wanting to work for that company. You might have someone says that you'd speak to somebody who's in that role, that they've given you guidance of how well the employees are treated within that company. So remember, don't come out with generic cliches. Make it individual. Make it about you. Why have you chosen it? And find a reason that really makes you stand out. This is why I've chosen your company, right? Because I know that you do this, this, and this, but I feel that my career within your company could go a long way, right? It could be that, the opportunities for me to travel abroad, the opportunities for me to travel within different departments and work in different departments, the opportunity for me to gain qualifications. Find different things. Don't do the generic. Oh, because your company is advertised and I've seen and I like it. Don't come out with a specific reason and have two or three. Okay. And then finally, you have to tell them why they should choose you. This is the bit where Israel, you asked, can you tell them how relevant your skill set? Absolutely. This is why you should choose me. Right? My skill set is broad. I can do all these things. And I know I can add value to your team. I can add value to your company. Right? This is about you. So why should they choose you? And this is not about telling you that me. That doesn't work. Tell them things based on evidence and based on facts. So follow it up with, I've managed to, if it's something about growth, and say, I've managed to achieve 10% growth in the last 6 months by doing A, B, C, D, E, right? and do that. That's what they want to see. Don't say, I've managed to grow within my department, I've had the maximum growth, whatever. That means nothing. Follow it by facts. Follow it by figures if you have to. Follow it by evidence. This is why I think, because I've done this, I think I can add value to a team because I know this is what you're looking for in your team. And I have managed to do A, B, C, D. And this is how I've done it. Is everybody okay with that so far? Is there any questions or any points anybody wants to make? Remember, this is not just about questions. This is all about, this is also about you all wanting to make noise and the things that other people that are attending today, they might find useful as well. So is it okay to move on, or do any of you have any questions on this? Are we going to kind of recap some of the stuff? Okay, so the points of reference for your discussion, right? The important thing is the points of reference. So we've said preparation is key. We've talked about that, right? So thorough preparation. Your resume that you write, make sure you're not stretching the truth. Make sure you're telling the truth, that nothing in there is something that's going to catch you out. And you'd be surprised. You might put something and somebody will ask you a question and then you're thrown, right? Make sure it's correct. Titus, if they ask technical questions and we don't know the answer, how do we say, I don't know? And how do we handle the situation? Very, very good question, Titus, right? So if they do ask you a technical question, there are different ways of answering that. And you can say, I'm sorry, I don't know. You can, but you can say, I haven't come across that one recently, or I haven't come across that one before, but this is what I think would happen. However, if I had to deal with that, I'd go and research a bit more. So what you're saying to them is, you're not trying to blag it. You're saying, I haven't come across that question, or I haven't come across that situation before, but I would find out how to deal with it, right? You can say, I don't know. An interviewer will value you for saying, I don't know the answer to that, but I can find out, and I will find out. Then you try to blag it and they know you've got it wrong. That's when they will switch off. If they know that you've tried to blag it, they'll switch off. And the rest of the interview, you'll notice, will just be, yeah, fine, a bit airy-fairy, right? Not as what's the word, structured as it should be. So you can say, don't know, but just say, look, I haven't come across that one. That's a very interesting question. I haven't come across something like that before, but I would find out more. And I would be able to deal with it. And you can say, and that's why I'm also here, because I want to learn. If I have come across something like that, I want to be able to learn a bit more. Sometimes, I think cheek is the wrong word, but I think you can be a little bit tongue-in-cheek about it, right? You can say, well, that's why I'm joining your company, because I want to learn more about that. I haven't had that experience as yet. Remember, you're not going for a job because you're 100% experienced in it. Nobody goes for a job for that. You're going for a job because you are also wanting to learn. You as an individual want to grow. That's why you're going for that job, not because you know how to do the job. What's the point of going for a different job if you're not going to learn and grow from it, right? So the key thing is you're growing from that and you're learning from that. So very good question, Titus. I'm pleased that that's got asked. The other thing, the preparation, is your cover letter. So when 9 times out of 10, you get asked to do a cover letter. Make sure your cover letter tells them exactly why you should be given that role and the skill set that you have. Okay. I also often say that in your, when I say take your little folder or what have you, have some other documentation, maybe your certificates, that not all of them, relevant certificates to show that you can do, that's relevant to the job. Show anything else that you've achieved. This is not just about the job. This is about you as a person as well, right? So when I do my interviews, we have what we call competency-based questions. standard in all organizations. And HSBC, we used to have quite a lot. So we used to have eight competency based. And then we would ask additional questions. And I always ended with the end bit. After we've asked the competency based ones, I'd say to them, right, you can relax now. I'm going to ask you a free fall questions, as I call them. And say, right, tell me a little bit about yourself. And once they know the competency questions have finished, they relax. And what they do is they kind of turn around and share everything about them. And I actually find out more about the individual in those 10 minutes after the interview, after the main questions, than I do during the competency base, because it's so, what's the word I'm looking for? It's so structured in a way that you know that it's not a bog standard answer, but it's a square answer, as I call it. I'm answering the question, right? I'm answering, instead of like looking a bit like that, it's that kind of question. But it's the afterwards that they relax a little and tell you a bit more, and you think, So while the competency-based questions aren't that great, sometimes, or the answers aren't that great, I sometimes make my decision on afterwards and thinking, yeah, this is the person I want in my team. But the other thing Shri, just give me a minute. I have seen your question. The other thing I often say, I end it with, so once I've done the interview, I say, right, tell me 3 words that describe you. 3 single words. And it absolutely stumps them. I'm not there to stump them. What I'm there to do is make them think, what makes you the right person for the job? Why should I choose you? Because if I'm looking for a specific reason for this role or a specific style, those 3 points, and it's only 3. I always say, and they'll give me 5. I said, I only want 3. Listen to me. I only want 3. So all I would say when you go away from here, write down 3 things that describe you, right? It could be teamwork. It could be supportive. It could be, I don't know, delegation. I don't know. Pick 3 words. I would write about 6 to 9 words and use those 3 words depending on the job you're going for. So there'll be 9 words that describe you that you've chosen. Select 3 that you're going to use at each interview, right? So write that down. How much we should tell in the question when they ask you to tell me about yourself? Very good question, Shri. Don't tell them everything they need to know. So when they said, tell me a little bit about yourself, what you can say is, my CV has covered a lot about me. Is there anything specific you want to know about me? Right? So remember, don't just, yes, sir, no, sir. I'll answer your question, sir. Right? It's about you asking the question back. So because remember, they've got your CV, they've got your cover letter. What else do they want to know about you? So it's not a case of don't answer it. Just say, as per my CV, and do very brief overview of your CV. So mine, I've 36 years within the financial services industry, primarily HSBC. I've also worked for the regulatory body within the UK. I've done all these different roles, and I've worked all across the UK, and I've done secondments abroad. I've got a very broad, wide skill set, and I've been a leader in many different roles and organizations as well. Bang. That's an overview of all the skills that you've done, all the jobs you've done. So do that. But you can also say, is there anything else you need to know about me? Because I think that covers a lot, and my cover letter does. What else would you like to know about me? And the other thing, don't feel shy about saying a few personal things. And when I say personal things, if you're married, if you have children, or you live with elderly parents, be open. That's what they want to know. Oh, right, okay. Because I'm thinking, if you say, right, you're not married, you don't have children, you're looking after your elderly parents, that tells me something about you. Oh, right, they're looking after their elderly parents. It's not, oh, I'm living with my mum and dad. That's not how it comes across. I'm living with my elderly parents. Shows me something, compassion about you, right? Because not every job is not just about the job. It's about you as an individual person. Does that answer your question, Shri? Right, about how? Does that help? Just yes or no? Perfect. And feel free to ask another question. Right. During your prep, remember, and Somia, please tell me if I'm kind of, how many more slides have we got? We've got quite a few on this, but sorry, on this thing. So do keep me in check for time. Familiarize yourself with when you're looking at when you're preparing the job description and the company culture, right? So this is not just about how the company does, the company culture. This is why I said about understanding the culture of the company. When I mean culture, it might be that they also want you to work remotely, or they're quite happy for you to work in a different office, or that if you need to take time off for family, the family is absolutely key to them, right? So things like that, understand the company culture. And when you ask questions, make sure, because remember, I'm going to say to you, as you should know, always have at least 3 questions that you are going to ask them. And one of them should not be about salary. If they haven't put the salary, they'll give you a salary bracket of what the salary is. Don't ask them about the salary. Ask questions about you and what it's going to do for you. So if I was there asking one of the questions, thank you for this interview. Can you tell me what my career plan would be? What's the opportunities available for me within this organization or within the department? What's the commitment levels within each role? How freely can I move within the different departments? Ask questions that are going to show that you're committed to the company as well. It's not just about you wanting that role because it's highly paid or what have you. It's because you really want to do that role. Okay, so that's the preparation. Second, structured questioning. So make sure they're going to ask you a whole set of questions, competency-based, as I've said. Every time they ask you a question, you're going to have another question in your head to say, oh, what about this? So just say, thank you for that question. And just make a quick note about the question. I know I already said to you, remember, you're going to have your notes and you can refer to them. But you also want to make sure that you want to ask those structured questions as well. So like you said, Shri, tell me a little about yourself and say, right, as per my CV, this is my overview. As per my cover letters, what else would you like to know? What additional stuff are you looking to find out about me? So ask that question back. Structured questioning. Don't do the airy-fairy questions, as I call them. Structured. Where's this going to get me? Why, the role, how long is it for? They may say your commitment is 2 years or 3 years. Just say, is this role really committed to 3 years, or can I move sooner than that? Don't be shy to ask that, because that shows ambition, right? Ambitiousness or ambition. So don't feel shy to ask those questions. I keep referring to, you are interviewing them just as much as they're interviewing you. Okay? Do you want the job? It all looks good on paper. Does it look good when you're in front of them? All right. Any questions? Just feel free to shout. I am going to go through this because I am conscious of time. Active listening is absolutely important. Pay attention to the kind of questions they're asking you and try to remember, read between the lines. They may come out with a question and you might have heard it differently. If you don't understand the question, don't be shy in asking, can you please repeat that? I didn't quite understand that question. Can you put it another way? Because sometimes interviews can be really narky. I've been there when I've been in front of an interviewer and they've asked me a question. I'm thinking, what kind of question is that? Obviously, I'm not going to say that. Say, can you ask me that in a different way? Because I don't quite understand what you're trying to ask me. And what they're trying to do is just trying to catch you out. And that's not what they're there for. Good interviewers don't want to catch you out. Good interviewers are interviewing you because they want you in the role. So, listen to what they're trying to ask you. Is it about you? Is it about the job? Is it about your skills? Is it about your future career? Is it about your past roles? What is it they're asking you? So listen carefully, right? And make sure that when you're answering, repeat the question if you don't understand as well. Not just ask, can you put it another way? Just say, just so I understand, this is what you're asking me. Is that correct? And do that. There's no harm in saying, have I understood that correctly? This is what you're asking me. Okay. Cultural fit. Now we talk about cultural fit, and this is not about religion or faith. This is about whether the way you work fits with the way they work. So when I say cultural fit, do they want someone that's 7 days a week, 24/7? That's not going to work. Do they want someone 9 to 5, Monday to Friday? It may work, it may not work for you. Do they want someone that wants you to work weekends? It may work for you, may not work for you. So the cultural fit is about making sure. So when they say to you, we want someone Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, is it going to work for you? Is that job going to work for you, or are you going to have to fit it? Because if, let's say, now, obviously I don't know your ages. I don't expect you to know, but some of you may have families. Some of you may have children. Some of you may be too young. Some of you may have parents, brothers and sisters that you have to look after. You may not be able to do a 9 to 5. You want to have that flexibility. So is there flexibility there? And that could be one of your questions, right? Your key questions when we're looking at structured questioning. What flexibility do I have? If they say to you, yep, fine, we're quite flexible, be honest with us. You might need to make time up if you're taking time to take your parents somewhere, or your brother somewhere, or whatever, another family member somewhere, to an appointment, a doctor's appointment, or wherever, right? So the important thing is about making sure that you communicate the importance of what you can do. Don't try to fit in with them. And before I answer this, why am I saying don't try to fit in with them if it's not something you can do? Why do you think I'm saying that? And please put that in the chat. Remember, the job has got to also meet your requirements. Absolutely, Shiva. It will impact your performance, because if you can't do the job that they want it, and you couldn't do it, and they've given you the job, it will impact on your performance. And then what happens is you get a negative feedback, you get a negative appraisal review, performance review, and then what happens is you're out the company, or you don't get the promotion. So be honest. There is no harm in being honest and say, I know this job is 9 to 5. But I do have family. Is there any form of flexibility here? Ask that question of them. I keep referring to this is a discussion. While we are doing, it's not you just being interviewed. You're interviewing them. You're also saying, I'd love to do the 9 to 5. Is there any flexibility because of this reason? Don't think that just because, it doesn't fit, they're not going to give you the job. That may not have been the right job for you. You might find the right job doing the right cultural fit for you. Okay. And sometimes it may be we want you to work Monday to Friday, but you can't do that Monday to Friday. And you might say, I'll work that Saturday for you instead. I opt to work another day because I can't do this day. You are selling a version that is not you. Absolutely, Maximo. You're selling a version that's not you. And therefore, you're not the right cultural fit for that job. And if you keep saying, yes, 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 sir, yes, sir, I'm going to do this job, you will fall at the first hurdle, right? I remember my career when I started, whilst I was a graduate, I started at the bottom, and I made sure that I knew every bit of role that I knew to get to the job, to the next role. And if it didn't fit me, I didn't go for the job. Even if people used to say, Raz, you're the right role. You're the right person. Yeah, but I can't do this. Now, when my daughter was growing up, and when I was, my daughter's, as some of you may remember, they've gone on some of my webinars before. She's older, she's married, and what have you. But when I used to go for any job interview, and although most of it was within HSBC, even outside, I say, look, I have my daughter. She's at school or she's at uni, whatever the case may be. She comes first. I will give you 200% when I am working. But if my daughter needs me, I'm gone. And some people would say, right, we don't want someone like that. That happened to me once in my 32-year career with HSBC, only once. And it was a female that said, sorry, then that doesn't fit. Every single other person was, yep, absolutely, we understand. And I was really successful for those people. So if my daughter needed, whether it was a doctor's appointment, or whether she was in a school play, or whether she was doing sporting, because she did a lot of stuff, I'd make the time up. So I'd work later on another day, or I'd go in on a Saturday and work. But they knew I gave a 200% when I was there. But if I was to go because my daughter was the most important thing in my life, I would go. And this is what I'm saying to all of you. If your family is important, you should say, I will do my best and I will do absolutely give you 100%, 200%. But, you know, if I need to go, I need to go. And they will respect you for that far more than you saying, yes, 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 yes. And then you struggle. And as Shiva said, it'll impact your performance. And as Maximo has said, it's not you. That's not the you that they're buying. They're buying something totally different. Okay? So that cultural fit is important. Thorough research. I don't think I need to go into this so much. It's understand the values, the cultures, what's their mission statement. Know their mission statement inside out and what's their vision. That is a cliche because everybody say, oh, what's the mission statement, right? What's the vision? Know it if you're going for that company, right? Like, you know, HSBC have several. I refer to HSBC because obviously I've spent most of my career with HSBC, but I've also worked for, you know, other organizations, but primarily, and I work for so many different banks now, but their mission statement was the world's most local bank, right? HSBC, the world's most local bank. So what they were saying is we are worldwide, but we are local and we understand the local cultures. And as you probably go in the UK or even elsewhere abroad, you go at the airports and HSBC logo is everywhere and the adverts are everywhere. They want to understand the culture of each local jurisdiction that they're in. That's important. That's how successful. So when we talk about thorough research, what's their mission statement? It'll change. Don't get me wrong. It'll be, you know, different. And what's their vision? What do they want to be? Do they want to be? Does this company want to be the top of their game, full stop? Or do they want to be in that organization where they can compete if they want to, but they're quite happy on that balanced plateau? All right. So understand that. Understanding the job requirements. And this kind of fits in with the cultural fit. What is the requirements of the job? Do we know that, you know, does your skill set match what they want? So understand, is it the right fit for you? So whilst on paper, it's great, you might ask certain questions or because they will automatically tell you a bit about the job role as well. And you might sit there thinking, oh, I didn't know that. Or I wasn't aware of that. And make the notes. So understand what they really want from that job. And what I would say is when they are talking about the job requirements, this is where your examples come in, because they'll say, in this role, we do A, B, C, D. How have you managed this in any of your previous roles? So that's when I say, make sure you've made the notes. Make sure you've done your little bit of background on you and notes with examples. Say, yeah, I did this here. I did this here. I did this with this team. I did this individually. Make those notes because you forget, right? And sometimes, now the one thing I used to say when I interviewed people is 9 times out of 10, when someone asks you a question and say, can you give me an example? Everybody goes for an example at work, correct? Would you agree? You all go for an example that you've done at work. Yes or no? Just give me a few of you say yes or no. Or that you've done in your work environment. Yes or no? Yes, Maximo, thank you. Right, yes, Shiva, you do. What I have said to people when I've interviewed is, I want to know how you have managed a project. Thank you, Israel, yes. And the 9 times out of 10, people say at work. And what I want to know is how you've managed and planned and organized that project. It doesn't have to be work related. And I remember one lady I interviewed, and I remember it so well because she panicked so much. And I thought, and I really wanted this person from the CV. So I said to her, it doesn't have to be a work related one. Have you done anything personally? And so she said to me, I planned my father's 60th birthday. Yeah, that's good enough. Tell me what you did. So she went and explained to me everything she did, how she planned it, how she organized it, what she did, all the seating plans, the catering, all the allergies and all the requirements, everything, how she did it. That's all I wanted to know, how she managed that project. She got the job because I didn't want to know a work-related one necessarily. I want to know about you as an individual. How do you do it? Hi, Raz. We have, oh, okay, right. We're going to be, I'm going to have to really go quick on this. So that's that, right. Effective communication, I think this is about how you articulate yourself. Make sure that you are talking, using the right language, and gesticulate with your body. Don't just sit there like this and interview, right? Use your hands and talk. Smile, say things. If there's something you don't understand, show you know. So effective communication is about how you're going to express yourself. Sorry, guys, I'm going to have to rush this because it's a lot more. Highlight your achievements. This is the skill set that we talked about earlier on. When you get asked a question, highlight what you've achieved in your roles. Okay. Think about what you've done that's different, that made you a standout person. Demonstrating that you are adaptable. All right. So make sure that you can solve problems. You can make decisions at the last minute. You can take action. Make sure that whatever it is, you can show that you are adapting, and you can adapt very easily to a critical environment. And then finally, ask the thoughtful questions. Okay. So make sure you ask everything. And don't just ask, when I say don't ask questions about pay and salary and stuff, make sure you ask questions that's going to impact you and the company. So it's a win-win, right? That's what you want to achieve in your discussion. Right, the preparation. How do you prepare and thorough research? We won't go into this so much because we've already done it. How do you prepare? Make the notes, Google, LinkedIn, do that, and make sure your research is thorough. Don't make any mistakes. Make sure you've got the facts right when you're looking at the company. Okay, make sure you know you've got everything right. And when we talk about structured questioning, the cultural fit around the questioning, make sure, and I think the questioning that you are going to be asking has to fit the job that you think you can do. As Maximo said, and as I think Shiva said, no, Shri said, or earlier, I can't remember, had said, remember, if you have got to be the right person. It's about you, right? Don't put a false person across. Communication. So effective communication is active listening. Listen to what they're saying. Listen to what they're asking, right? Make sure you get that right. Understand the job requirements. So we've talked about this, but making sure, I'm just recapping now, highlighting all your achievements. Now, don't talk about absolutely everything. Only highlight the achievements that's relevant to that role. So you might have got 20 different achievements. Only pick the ones that are relevant to that role, and then demonstrating adaptability. All right. So this is kind of where recapping, and I would have asked you all of these questions going forward. The last chapter. So this is the final piece where ask thoughtful questions. Have at least 5 questions, but only ask 3. And we've talked about the kind of questions you need to be asking. It's about, where do you think you see? What's the strategic vision of the company? Because does that meet with your strategic planning and vision? Right? So ask those kind of questions. Where do you see the company going? How can I be part of that company when you are growing? Right? I want to be part of your company, but I need to know the path you're taking. Does it fit for me? Seek feedback. Ask them, how do you think? After the interview, don't just walk out. Just say, if I may ask, can you give me a little bit of feedback on how that went? And they'll say, well, we'll give it to you straight away, sorry, we'll give it to you later on, or what have you. Just say, it'd be interesting to see and hear what kind of how you went generally, how you think the discussion went. Don't feel shy to ask that. Ask it. And collaborate. You want to work with them, right? You want to be part of that job. You want to be the team player in that role. It's not just about you, it's about you and the company. Make sure you get that message across. I want to join the company because as part of the company, I want to do this. It's not just about me getting to the top. It's me wanting to get to the top, taking people with me, taking the company up there as well. Okay. I think I've done, could you go back to the previous slide? Yes, certainly, Bolatife. Which one? This one? Is it this one or this one? I don't know. I'm hoping I've got to the right slide. Okay. Any questions? I think we've got, I don't know how long we've got, but we've got a few minutes for questions. Thank you. For those of you that were sending and writing in the chat, I really appreciate it. I hope it was useful for all of you. Sorry we had to rush at the end. Some of it was a recap, but I hope you found it useful. And Soumya, have you got my LinkedIn? I think you've got my,
Yes, Raz, just give me a second.
yeah, I think you've got it. It's just more difficult. It's easier. Soumya is so good on the technical stuff. And I'm not that good on that kind of stuff. So she'll post my LinkedIn link. If there's any questions you've got after this, feel free to reach out to me. More than happy to help you. Good luck with your interviews and what have you. There you go. There you go, Israel. I think she's Soumya has put that. Feel free to reach out. And good luck. And remember, don't get scared. Right? It's a discussion. Don't go in as I'm being interviewed. It's a discussion. So relax, breathe deeply and relax, and you'll be fine. Okay. You also are going to interview them because you want to know if the job is right for you. So you're also interviewing them. But thank you. Thank you, Shri. Thank you for this. And again, please feel free to reach out. Thank you, Titus. Thank you, Shwefa. I'm really pleased that it was helpful for you.
Yes, thank you each and everyone for taking your time to join this session. I think it was really helpful for each and everyone, I hope. Right, so we are planning more, and we have other session with Ras on 21st of this month. So I'm
Yep.
just pasting the link for that also for you people. Please get and register for that session. We'll see
Yeah.
you all there. Just give me a
Yeah. So
second.
that's the one. That's the confidence and mindset. So that's really good because that follows on very well to this. So it's how do you boost your confidence and the mindset? So thank you, Soumya, for mentioning that. So yes, that's next week, I believe. But we've got a few more that we've got, not just about around interviews, but generally as well for all of you, personal careers, etc. So
Yeah, hope
yeah,
you all get registered for the next session, and we hope you all to see there soon. Yeah.
okay. Thank you, Soumya. If you can just stay on for literally a minute after everybody's gone, be really good. I know you've got to get on to the next. Just literally a minute would be great. Let me know when we can have a quick chat.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening, or great afternoon, and great morning, everyone. Yeah. See you all in the next sessions. Take care.